Good morning, my beloved. Welcome to another edition of Take 5. This is so exciting. Let's get right into it. Exodus chapter 14. This is where we left off yesterday. Verse 21. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided. Now, can you imagine how strong that wind was that pushed the sea all the way back, and it's dry, and you can just hear it. It's incredible. Verse 22, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground with a wall of water on their right and on their left. Now, I bet you they were kind of scared. Don't you think you'd be scared? You'd be wondering, is that water going to come back? But they all went through, and that was a lot of them. Verse 23, the Egyptians pursued them, and all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen followed them into the sea. During the last watch of the night, the Lord looked down from the pillar of fire and cloud at the Egyptian army and threw it into confusion. He jammed the wheels of their chariots so that they had difficulty driving, and the Egyptians said, "Let's get away from the Israelites. The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." Okay, they just now figured that out. But what you see here, God gets involved. And if you've got enemies, sometimes God will get involved and will mess them up so they can't get to you and they can't do everything they want to do to you. All right, I'm not going to get too personal there. All right, but I think you've seen it in my own life. Sometimes some people want to do some harm to me and do some things to me, and they just couldn't get too far. All right. They might have tried, but it just didn't work. And God's looking out for you. And sometimes the people will try stuff, but He's not going to let them get too far. They'll scare you a little, but He'll protect you. Verse 26. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out." Watch this. "Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the waters may flow back over the Egyptians and their chariots and horsemen." Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at daybreak the sea went back to its place. The Egyptians were fleeing toward it, and the Lord swept them into the sea. The water flowed back and covered the chariots and horsemen, the entire army of Pharaoh that had followed the Israelites into the sea. Not one of them survived. Do you see that? God destroyed the entire Egyptian army. And I guess they kind of became a navy there, didn't they? Because they all drowned in the Red Sea. Just like He said. Remember, Moses told the people, these Israelites that you see, these Egyptians that you see today, you'll never see again. Just remember, God is on your side. He's got this. This is like one of the most recurring lessons through the Word of God, is that God is in control. God's got this. Verse 29, but the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground with a wall of water on their right and on their left. And again, you see this distinction: God's people, God's enemies. That day the Lord saved Israel from the hands of the Egyptians. Let's don't miss that. The Lord saved Israel, and God will save you. And Israel saw the Egyptians lying dead on the shore. So eventually they got washed up, and they could look out there and see them. And when the Israelites saw the mighty hand of the Lord displayed against the Egyptians, the people feared the Lord and put their trust in Him and in Moses, His servant. When you see God do great things, do amazing things, it needs to cause two things. You need to fear Him, and that's appropriate. The same way that when you were younger, you feared being punished by me or by your mom. Okay, and that's good because it keeps you out of trouble. And we need to fear God. We need to obey Him and realize He can punish us. Now, He won't destroy us, but He'll punish us because He loves us. Okay, so we fear Him. We'll also trust Him. When you were little, I could put you someplace high and you would jump and I would catch you and you trusted me. Okay, we need to trust God. And it says that in Moses' servant. So we trust God's leaders as well. If they're truly God's leaders, we got to test them. But if they are, then we trust them. Okay, and that's it. Isn't that not one of the most exciting chapters in the Word of God? Oh my goodness. All right. So now here's the thing. The Israelites now are done with the Egyptians. They're out of there. But the challenges aren't over. And we're going to see that in the next few chapters. The challenges are never over. You don't ever get to a place where there's no more challenges, there's no more obstacles. However, there are occasions where it does get a little easier than other times. And I know in my life right now, it's definitely easier than it's been in the last few years. But I'm not dumb. I know there's going to be more challenges. All right. But what we're going to do whenever we see these challenges, we're going to fear the Lord and put our trust in Him. All right. Hey, come back tomorrow. We'll be in chapter 15 on the next edition of Take 5.